So from the syllabus, first thing that I'm going to cover is going to be OOPS concept. So today let's start with some of the basics of OOPS concept, and then we'll look into all of the different advanced concepts inside of OOPS. So I'm just going to give a very quick introduction to classes and how we can use them. Once that is done, we'll cover four different things inside of OOPS: encapsulation, polymorphism, inheritance, and abstraction. Okay, so let's create a very simple class and see how class actually works like. So I'll create a class called as patient. Now for this patient, okay, so this is how we will create any kind of class. So init method is used whenever we are trying to pass parameters to a class. We have to use the init method. So let's go ahead and create an object of this class. This is a class. And patient. Now I'll create one more object. Okay, so I've created P1 and P2 as two separate patients. Now let's add a few attributes. Okay, to do that, whenever I'm creating a patient, I'll pass the name of the person. So let's give this as John Steve. Again, if I don't pass it, I'll get an error. Missing one required positional argument name. Okay, I'm passing my name. Now it is working properly. Now let's take this name and create that as a property of this class. Before we do that, let's write one more function. Uh, Get name. So every time we write a method, it should have self keyword compulsory. This function will simply print the name. Okay. So already you can see that there is a yellow color line here because this is not going to work. Okay. I've created this. Now I'll say p1 dot get name. Okay. So it says name is not defined. And if you look at the error message, it's redirecting you all the way back. So from this line, p1.getName line, it's going into this function. And instead of that function, at this particular line, they're getting the error. And the actual error is name is not defined. Because right now, inside of this function, it is assuming that name is a global variable. Because locally it doesn't have any variables, so it checks for the same thing as a global variable, but it is not able to find it. So it should be either inside of this function or outside of this class. If it is inside of a different function like this, it's not accessible by this function. So to fix that, what we do is we'll simply say self.name is equal to name, or I can go with self.patient name equal to this value. Now self.patient. I can simply use this and this is going to print the name perfectly without any issues. So this is the get method, okay? So whenever we want to get any particular parameter, we can use the self dot, and similarly, we can also assign new properties. Self, sorry, define set age. Now, whenever I call this function, I'll be passing the age value, and I'll say self dot age is equal to whatever I'm passing here. Okay, get name. I'll put this in a print. Now, p1 dot set age. Let's pass the age as 25. Okay, it's not returning anything, right? I'll say return age has been set. Then not to print. Okay, now age has been set. Let's print it. To print a particular attribute of a class, we can simply do p1 dot age. Okay, so this will also give us the direct value. I can write one more class. So similar to get name, I'll say get age. Self dot age. Let's ignore this for now. Yeah. So age has been set and we are now able to access age as well. Let's change this a little bit. So here I'm setting the age. If I comment this without setting the age, if I try to print the age variable, let's see what will happen. This is going to throw an error saying that patient object has no attribute called age because we did not set age as an attribute. Once I set it here, it's going to work smoothly. Okay, done. Now get age after 5 years. Okay, so this is a different function. What I'm going to do is I'll simply say age plus 5. Okay, so 25 plus 5, 30 is being printed here properly. Now, instead of doing it like this, I'll return the value. New age is equal to present age plus 5 years. Let's print the output. Okay. Okay, so this is also working properly. So this is how we can use the get and set methods. Do you guys have any doubts in this part?
No.
Okay. So by the way, the Function names can be anything, okay? Here I'm just using get underscore and set underscore as an example. You can just write whatever name that you want for your method. So method and function, they're pretty much the same thing. If I write it inside of a class, it is called as a method. But if I write the exact same thing outside of a class, then it is called as a function. Just give me one second. Now we have created all of this part for one person. Let's do the same thing for patient 2 as well. Okay, so here I'm defining the class. While doing it, I can directly set the age. Let's take 95 years. Now, when I say p2.age, mm, oh yeah, I removed that function, right? Age 95. Yeah, there you go. So here I'm setting the age and it is being created as a separate attribute. Now I can do the same thing here as well. Get the age of the person. Instead of P1, it is P2. After 5 years, 100 years. Okay, so both of these are two different objects of the same class. But because they are separate objects, I can pass different properties. So here I'm passing name as a separate uh, John as the separate property for name, and Steve as a separate property for name. Age is also different. So both of these are two different objects. So whenever we have a class, we'll create multiple objects. Now you can understand the same thing from sklearn. Uh, if I go into sklearn linear regression, the most basic machine learning algorithm, right? So let's go into examples. Here you can see from sklearn.linear models, import linear regression. This is a class. Okay, so we are importing this class and then reg is equal to linear regression dot fit of x comma y. You can ignore the fit part, but reg is equal to linear regression. So this is where I'm creating a method of this class. Sorry, an object of this class. So reg is now an object, similar to how we created P1 as an object and P2 as an object. Reg is an object. And when I do reg dot score of x comma y, it basically means this class, the linear regression class, has a method called score, and that takes in two things called x comma y, similar to how we have a method here along with the arguments. Okay, so this is creating a method and this is using the, sorry, this is creating an object and this is using the methods. Okay, cool. Now we have seen that age, patient name and age are attributes of a class. If I go down here, I'm able to access age directly outside of the class as well. But sometimes you don't want to do that. You want to keep your variables, some variables restricted to the class. Okay, so to do that, we have a concept of private attributes. Okay, to explain this, I'll take the whole thing, go down here, I'll paste it here. Now, whatever name I'm passing here, let's keep it as it is. Now, once I have an age, see self.patient name is a public attribute, but self.age, right now it is public, but if I add two underscores, this is going to become a private attribute. So I'll use the same thing here again, self.age plus 5. I'll run this. Let's create a new patient called P3. Use John again. P3 dot set age. I'll set his age as 45 again, 45. Now previously, after setting the age, I was able to print the age. Now let's use the same thing again. P3 dot underscore underscore age. Here you can see it says that patient object has no attribute called as underscore underscore age. From the exact same code, if I remove the underscores, oh, here as well, it works fine without any issues. So whenever we add underscores, it will be counted as a private attribute. But this private attribute can be accessed inside of the class. So across all of my methods, I can use this particular class. So here I'm importing the same thing. I'm taking that age and I'm adding 5 to it and I'm returning the new age. This function will work fine without any issues. So I may not be able to access this part, but I'll be able to access this part. Okay, so that is how we can create private attributes. Now, this works not only for attributes, but also for methods as well. So let's take uh, define row details. Oh, sorry. Okay, let's put it at the last. Okay, show details. Right. After 5 years, his age is going to be this, whatever it returns. Oh, by the way, you can call one method inside of a different method with the help of self dot. Now, instead of that, I'll say show details. Run this, run this. It was no attribute name. Oh, it is patient. So my bad. Okay, so it is able to print all of this thing properly. Now what I'll do is I'll take the same thing, p3 dot get age after 5 years. So it is able to access this thing properly. But if I add underscores, here you can see this part worked without any issues. So inside of the class, it is able to access the private method, but outside of the class, we cannot access this method. Any doubts in this part?
No, sorry.
Okay. Abhiram, any doubts?
No problem.
Okay, cool. So that is about private attributes. So when you add two underscores, it becomes a private attribute. Now let's add two underscores at the end as well. So that is what we call as a dunder method or magic method. Okay. So if I have a simple list, now what I can do is I can print the length of the list. But who has written this length function? Who has written this print function? It is a default function inside of Python. We can't modify them. But if I'm using a class, I can modify the behavior of the length function. So let's do the same thing. Let's do it for length first. What I'll do is I'll say underscore underscore length. Now when I do this, I need to pass self. So whenever I'm saying length of this thing, length of P3, let's remove this part. Okay, so whenever I'm printing the length of P3, Ashkita, are you there? It says that you entered waiting room.
Yes, actually, I'm logging from the device.
Okay. Yeah, done. Where was I? Length, right? Okay. So let's take one simple array. Or why do I even need this? I can simply say this will A equal to 10, B equal to 10, or B equal to 1, return A plus B. Just completely random logic, okay? Now this is the length. When I say length of P3, here you can see the same thing is being returned. So even though this is not an iteratable thing, this is not a list, this is not a dictionary, this is not a data frame, but still I'm able to use the length function. Okay, because I've defined the rules of the length function using dunder method or magic method. So there are so many other magic methods like this. So for example, if I have to write one for add underscore add, so we take self, and whenever I'm doing an add, I need to pass in some value as well, number. I'll do the same thing. Plus, now this a plus number. Now I'll simply print p3 plus this is 10, right? So I'll go with 5. So here you can see I'm able to add it almost as if this is some kind of integer or something, right? So I'll be able to use add, subtract, multiply, divide, all those different things. And length is also usable. Now, similarly, one more popular dunder method is get item. Now this get item, add will take a number, right? Similarly, get item will also take index. Now from this index, you can do whatever you want. For example, array is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'll say return ARR of index. To use this, need 3. So for add, we have used plus symbol. To get item, I'll use square brackets. So similar to how we access things in a list, I'll use a square bracket here. I'll pass the index as 3. Okay, so it gave 4 as the answer. 0, 1, 2, 3. Fourth element. Okay, so that is how we can use the get item method as well. Now, similarly, we have one for equal to. So instead of plus, if you want to write a condition for equal to symbol, you can write a condition for that as well. Instead of length, if you want to write it for typecasting. So if you want to convert that into string, then you can write your own logic for that. So this is how we can make use of dunder methods. Any doubts in this part?
Yeah, all
No,
clear.
Okay, cool. Now let's cover something called as polymorphism. So what polymorphism does is it will take one base class and it can import all of the properties. So that can be different methods, different attributes, whatever it may be. It will import all of the properties from the base class. Now, using this base class, you can create as many classes as you want. So let's see how that works. I'll create a class called as animal. By the way, you can pass it. Nothing wrong in that. Define. I'll create a function. So whenever I'm creating animal, I don't have to pass anything, but I'll create a function called as uh, make sound. And I'll simply say pass. Don't do anything inside of this function. Just leave it like that. And whenever I'm initiating it, self.location, I'll keep it as forest. Now this is my base class. Using this base class, I'll create two more classes. One is called dog, one is called cat. Now here I'm going to use the same make sound function. This will return bark. This will return meow. Now, originally, this is what I've got, right? So what I'll do is, for make sound, I'll return no sound. I've created dog, I've created cat. Let's create one more. What other common pets do we have? Let's go with parrot. I don't have to give anything. I can simply say pass. So if I don't want to give any class, any methods, I can simply write it as pass. Okay. Now I've created three separate classes. I'll take animal and I'll pass this as the base class. To do that, this is how we can pass it. So when I do this, automatically it will import all of the values. It can be attributes, it can be methods, everything will be imported from the base class to my current class. Okay, instead of doing this, I'll say define show location. Return self dot this location. So here you can see that I'm taking the location attribute, which I've not defined here, but instead I've defined it here. And since I'm using polymorphism, this will import the location from this class and I can use it here. So let's go ahead and try all of these. Let's create a dog. D1. I'll say D1 dot make sound. Similarly, D1. This is for cat. Similarly for parrot. Okay, if I run this part, but one more given, make some. Okay, spelling mistake here. And also I forgot to put self. Okay, so dog make sound is returning me bark as expected. Now cat is returning me meow as expected. For parrot, it will say no sound because I did not overwrite it. I did not write the make sound method separately. So if I don't define it here, it's going to search for it in the base class. So my base class has the make sound method, so it will use the exact same thing. Now if I do p1 dot show location, it will say forest. And all of the previous things like the private methods and public methods and Dundal methods and everything, they will work exactly the same way in polymorphism as well. So any doubts in this polymorphism part?
Nothing.
Okay. Now, this polymorphism actually consists of two things, polymorphism and inheritance. So inheritance is basically whenever you are importing all of the properties from a base class, that is called as inheritance. And whenever you're creating multiple objects with same class, it is called as polymorphism. Okay, so we have covered polymorphism and inheritance both in this code block. Now let's go ahead and understand what is abstraction. Abstraction might be a little confusing to you guys, but just stay with me here. Okay, I'm going to write a small block of. Okay, so for abstraction, we are going to import something called ABC. From ABC, import ABC abstract method.
Hello.
Yeah, hello.
Bro, okay. My voice was silent.
I'm just writing this whole code. Just give me 1 minute. Once I write it down, I'll
Yeah.
just. Okay, so here you can see I'm importing shape. Uh, yeah, I've created shape as a base class, and I'm using inheritance to import all of the properties from shape. And I'm creating a new class called as rectangle. This has area, perimeter, and it will calculate the area and perimeter, and it will return it directly. And here you can see I'm using the same values and I'm printing. So this is pretty much very straightforward. But if I don't write this, if I comment it, it throws me an error. Can't instantiate abstract class. So if you see where I've got this error, it is directly in this line. So where I'm initiating my object. So I'm creating my object here, I'm initiating it here, and this is where I got the error saying that this class is not valid. It can't use it. It can't create an object for this because these two are abstract methods, which means I have to pass them here. So wherever I'm importing my base class, I need to define them separately again. So I can't use the existing ones directly. I'll be forced to define them separately. So that is called as abstract method. So to import abstract method, we will use this line. So ABC is a built-in library. Okay, this is not some example thing that I've written. ABC is actually the name of the built-in library, and from that we can import ABC as a class again. So shape is a base class, which is again shape is also importing some things from base class called ABC. Okay, now ABC, sorry, abstract method is a method that I'm going to use for all of the different methods that I want to self-impose. Any doubts in this abstraction part?
As of now.
Okay. So if nothing, then let's go to GitHub. Did I not send? Come on. You might have heard about LangChain. It's one of the most popular framework that we have nowadays for generative AI. Let's go into chain of chains. So let's take this thing. I'll copy this part. Let's come back, paste it. Okay, so this is a very small code snippet. So let's try to understand all the different things that are happening inside of this code snippet with the help of all the things that we have learned just now. Okay, let me remove this. We don't need that. Am I missing one line? I'm not missing anything. I will do this. Okay, so does anybody want to decode this thing, or do you guys want me to explain line by line?
Yeah, you can
Explain.
continue.
Okay. So import torch, we are importing a library called as torch. You can ignore that. We don't need this right now. From transformers library, we are importing these four classes. Okay, so each one of them is a separate class. Here you can see the moment I've put my cursor on top of this, it already says this is a class. This is also class, 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 class. Okay, so I'm taking four classes. This is a variable that I've created, which is called as model name. It is a string value. It's going to store the name of the model that I'm going to use. This model name will be used in multiple places. So auto tokenizer class. For that class, I'm taking one more method called from pre-train. So if I go back here all the way up to my patients, yeah. So here we were using the set age, right? So similarly, I have a method inside of my class called as from pre-train. So for that class, for this particular method, I'm passing these values as the parameter by default, and then I'm creating an object of this. So I can also break this down into multiple lines, not an issue. Tokenizer dot from pre-trained model use fast equal to 2. I can do it like this as well, but it's going to be like an additional step. I'll have to do it like this because one second, spelling mistake. This will become new tokenizer because from pre-trained is going to return something. It will return me one more object. So I'll have to store this new object because this is the one that I'm going to be using for the rest of the code. So instead of dealing with all of this nonsense, I can simply write it like this. So auto tokenizer dot from pre-train, and it takes all these parameters. So I'm passing them directly. This is one object. Similarly, model is another object. Auto model for causal LLM. So this is a class. For this class, I'm using the from pre-trained method, and I'm passing all of the necessary arguments, whatever are needed. I'm passing them, and I'm creating a new object for this. Both of these are objects. Similarly, the third one as well, generation config. This is also an object. From generation config class, I'm using from pre-trained method, and I'm creating an object. After creating this object, I'm modifying all of these parameters. So here, if I go back again, let's go to a different example. Yeah, I hope this is working. Let's run this. Let's run this. So p2.age, instead of using set age, I can directly change it here as well. Let's go to 80. I can do it like this. So I'm setting it as 95 here. After 5 years, gave me 100, but right now I'm setting it as 80. Let's see, this should give us 85. So I can change the attributes outside of the class as well. Sorry for the noise. Okay, so that's exactly what I'm doing here. I'm taking all of these attributes called maximum new tokens, temperature, top P, do sample, repetition penalty, and I'm setting the values of them outside of the class directly. Now this is my third object, 1, 2, and 3. For the third object, I'm just changing a few parameters. Finally, I have my fourth class, which is called as pipeline. So whenever I'm initiating it directly, which means if I have it like this, class pipeline init. So if I have it like this, apart from self, it will take four different things. This is time. So LLM type, model, tokenizer, generation config. Okay, so my pipeline will take four different things. That's why I'm passing all these four things separately. Once I do that, this is going to become one more object, which is making use of these four objects. Sorry, these three objects. Now text pipeline is my fourth object. Now similarly, this is how we can use multiple objects inside of multiple objects, and we can create one base class and use it for different subclasses. So I think I've covered most of the parts related to class, and we have seen an example as well. So I guess that's pretty much it for the class session. Now, just give me a second. Oh, it's already almost 1 hour. Okay, no worries. Yeah, Ashkita.
Yes, actually, we inherited one class to another class, right? So we can do multiple inheritance with multiple class. Is it? Am I right?
So 1 second. So if you are asking me, so apart from animal, if I can give dog here, is that what you're asking? Multiple.
Yes.
Yeah, that is possible. Yep. So if I give
Hmm.
multiple classes here, it will inherit all of the properties from both the classes.
Okay.
And also it will follow the order. For example, if I'm, let's say if I don't have this, and whenever I'm calling the make sound function, first it will take it from animal, but dog also has make sound. So this will overwrite it. So this will no longer be used. It will print bark as the final output. So order will be followed.
Okay. Got it.
Any other doubts?
So the second thing, can we means it will be the same name? It will cause any error, or if we put same class name?
For everything, we have to follow different name actually. So we can't
Mhm.
repeat any names. For example, if I'm creating a class called as animal, uh, let's take dog, for example. Let's few changes here. Or let's keep it. Okay, I'll create dog. So this is the same name as my class. Now I'll say dog dot make sound. Just comment this for me. Wait, why did it not work? Method resolution. Oh, it has the same thing. Okay. Uh, this should work actually. I'll get back to you on this, Ashkita. This should work. We should be able to inherit from multiple classes. But for now, let's remove that part. Okay, so dog and dog, same class name. It is working as expected without an issue. But now when I try to create one more class, one more object for my dog, now this is not going to work. Already you can see that it is not changing the color because this is being counted as a variable. So this dog has overwritten my class name. The moment I defined it, this has been lost and it has been replaced by this variable. So if I say d2 dot make sound, see, it's not even showing me the suggestion because it's just a variable. See, dog object is not callable. So we have to be very clear with the nomenclature. That's why what we do is whenever we are creating a class, the first we always follow camel case. So this will become capital D. Now I can use this as many times as I want without any issue. So nomenclature is very, very important.
And the second thing I want to clear that whenever we are giving value for the attribute, at that time, if we want to restrict that value outside the class, so we will make this attribute as a private attribute. Am I correct?
Uh, can you come again? I didn't understand the question.
I mean, suppose inside the function, if we assign one value for the particular attribute, and we want to restrict this value to
Okay.
get outside the that time we take it as a we'll make this attribute as a
Public.
private attribute.
When you want to access it outside, then you have to make it
Mhm.
as public. If you want to use it only inside of the class, we will keep it as private. So
Mhm.
underscore is private. So when I have this underscores, I'll be able to use it only inside. If I want to use it outside, then I'll have to make it as a public attribute. So for example, define. Now I'll create a completely new attribute called age. Self dot underscore underscore age. So I'm creating a completely new attribute called as age, which is a public one. Now I can use this outside of the class as well without any issues. But when I want to use it inside of the same class, when I want to use the same attribute outside of the class, that is not possible because it is a private attribute.
Okay.
Anything else?
Yeah, I'm good.
Abhiram, do you have any doubts?
No, no.
Just give me 1 second, guys. Yeah, this is the reason why it didn't work. Yeah. Okay, so if you take a look at this, this is my class 1 and class 2 and class 3. Both of these 2 and 3 are importing from first class. For the fourth class, I'm importing it from multiple classes, 2 and 3. This will work because 2 is separate and 3 is separate. But the moment I change this into 1 comma 3, 3 itself is importing from 1. If you see here, 3 is importing from 1. So I can't pass 1 here again. So that will become a conflict, right? So that's why we will get an error. The same thing has happened here as well. If I go back to our example, Where is this? Yeah. So here I can't give dog separately because dog is importing from animal. So I can't pass animal and dog in the same class separately, in the same class here. If I remove it like this, it's the exact same thing, right? You're importing everything from dog. Dog is importing everything from animal. But if I pass multiple things like this, then that will cause a issue. Instead, what I can do is I can give dog comma cat. Okay, so this way we can do inheritance from multiple classes.
Okay, means in particular one class, if we have multiple properties of the another classes, then we can use only second class into the third class. We can inherit only second class 2 into third class, right?
Exactly, yeah. Or like
Mm.
we can import as many as we want. Only thing is there should not be these kind of conflicts. My second class should not import from first class. Like this is the second one, right? And this is the first one. So if my second class is already importing from first one, I shouldn't pass the first one here again.
Yes, got it.
Okay. So if no other doubts, then we can conclude the session.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Thank you for joining, guys. So in the next session, I'll give you the invitation for the next session. So in the next session, we will be covering some of the concepts of building a repository and the best practices for building that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you for joining. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.